Well, hi everyone. My name is Blair Nicol with FranNet, and today we have a great special guest, somebody I've known for, I don't think I want to say it, Shawna.
Over 20 years. Let's put it that way.
I think it's getting close to the decades, multiple decades.
Yes.
But anyways, we have Shawna Bergstrom with us today, with a very large franchisor that most people have probably never heard of because it's a franchisor that you don't walk by, drive by, see every day, but yet they're one of the largest franchisors in the country. And in fact, the other day, well, a couple weeks ago, I was flying into Orange County, California, and looking out my window of the plane, and plane turns around, starts going to the terminal. I'm like, that's a very big building with this company's name on it. Home Franchise Concept. So
Yeah.
welcome, Shauna.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so why don't we start with just kind of the mothership, if you will, Home Franchise Concepts. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about Home Franchise Concepts?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started as Budget Blinds, which is a top 10 franchise in the world. We're owned by a parent company called JM Family Enterprises. It's a $22 billion privately held company. They brought Toyota to the United States back in the 1950s, and they have been just slowly looking at brands that we could acquire, that kind of fill that home space. So starting with Budget Blinds and then slowly adding owner operator brands and some semi-absentee brands, and just unique in that they're privately held and not held by private equity. So the decisions that they're making for these brands are really in the best interest of franchisees and their, long-term benefits, down the line with a privately held company.
How many brands now?
We're 10
10.
brands.
And so you can kind of see it on your background there. Definitely some brands that people would recognize, but obviously the big one would be Budget Blinds. I know I've used them in my office, in my other businesses, at my home. I've used Aussie Pet Mobile. Which other ones on that list have I used? Those are the two. Oh, and Taylor Closet I did use as well. So yeah, some amazing brands. So we want to focus on one main brand today out of all those brands, because most people listening to this recording are up here in the Pacific Northwest. And there's one that is, there's kind of a rarity, if you will, behind the brand that we're going to talk about today. And we're going to talk about Two Maids. And the reason why I say that it's rare is that a lot of our clients want service-based, low cost, a needed service, has a secret sauce to it, but then there's the kicker, which is kind of that semi-absentee category that you were talking about. And let me just kind of qualify semi-absentee, and you can qualify if for Two Maids. This is not a business, nor do I think any semi-absentee business is a business that you write a check for, maybe throw some water on it every now and then, and it grows.
Right. Wouldn't that be a great business?
Yeah, that would be a great business. We'd all be looking for them. No, they require effort. The owner still has to execute. So we'll talk about kind of time commitment, kind of what it takes on a semi-absentee basis and full-time basis, but which is kind of launched right into Two Maids. So take it away on Two Maids.
Yeah, I would say right now we're at about 48% of our owners run at semi-absentee across multiple states. So I have one that owns in Spokane, Reno, and Green Bay, Wisconsin. So the key to it is to put a really good manager in place. So if you're an owner, you're probably spending about 15 hours a week on it if you're running it semi-absentee and you have a manager that's handling more of the day-to-day. I think the secret sauce with Two Maids is that we worked with the creators of Grubhub to create a digital platform. So when people Google cleaning services and we tether them to the Two Maids side of that franchise owner, they're immediately going onto a digital platform where they're putting in square footage, what they would want done to their house. And they're actually booking an appointment right there, just like Calendly. It's going to book the appointment. They're going to get an automated text message. So it's automatic. They're not having to wait for someone to call them back. Then when the cleaning is done, the homeowner actually goes back on that digital platform and they rate the cleaning so that they give it a 1 to 5 star rating. And we explain it to them that they are actually part of the pay for performance model for our cleaners. So depending on how they rate the clean and the feedback that they give in the notes section is how the cleaner is paid. And this is good on a lot of levels because we're getting feedback so we know what to do the next time. The cleaners feel powerful because they know that if they go through a checklist of things that they have to do, they have an opportunity to make anywhere from 4 or 5 stars, you'd be making 19 to 20% commission. They're making on average about a 20% tip on top of that. So it's nice for an owner of the franchise because they're not micromanaging. They're not paying these people hourly. They're saying, here are your 5 houses to clean, get a 5-star review, right? Go above and beyond, and you're going to get this commission, and then they get that tip on top of it. So that is the differentiator with Two Maids to Another Cleaning franchises. They're able to book that appointment automatically, get a confirmation, and then they also, the customer is able to give feedback so that when those cleaners come back into the home, they can just go right back to those notes and do exactly what that homeowner wants. So it has about a recurring revenue of about 85% because of that digital platform, that is in place. That's really what makes it unique. The best owners that I've put in it are the ones that are more focused on creating a great place to work, creating culture. They like building teams. Maybe a little more analytical, maybe a little detail oriented is fine for this brand because they're not selling anything. They're building teams, they're creating culture. You do have a requirement to have a 900 to 1,000 square foot physical location. And that is because we don't want our owners to have to buy a fleet of vehicles, right? And maintain vehicles. We'd rather help the owner locate the hottest spot within their territory, put that physical location so that they're paying mileage for their cleaners out to all of those, homes within that territory. And it's also just good for Google because now we have a physical space that we can actually verify that is the space. And then what I've seen is the culture and the accountability that comes from having that physical space where your manager is meeting them in the morning and giving them cleaning caddies and vacuum cleaners and sending them out, and then they're there at the end of the day to collect everything. It just creates a little bit more of that accountability and that culture. So it's a super fun brand. The digital platform is the biggest differentiator, and makes it one of the best cleaning franchises in the US.
So, I mean, who would have thought? I mean, so many houses use some type of cleaning service, typically a small independent person or maybe a husband and wife, whatever the case may be. They just kind of clean, they write the check and they go. This brings it to a whole nother level, right? So typically what I see of cleaning services that are independents is they do a good job like the first couple times, maybe few times, and then the service starts to decline a little bit over time, right? I take it this is a way of keeping that service level top notch every single time because the employees are compensated for it.
Right. And that's why the model's built that way, because that was the number one feedback. So there were a couple of that, right? And that happens to all of us. And the interesting feedback that we saw from it was people get angry, but don't say anything, which I think is
Right.
really interesting. That the third time, right, they're angry because they didn't wipe under the salt and pepper shaker, but they have no way to say anything. So now they can constantly be giving feedback. And surprisingly, when you give people the option to give feedback, it's generally pretty positive because they get to help and they're sort of a part of that. Oh, I get to thank these people for a job well done. And it's great for the cleaners because they go in and they know what to expect. We also have our own levels of clean that we want to see. We have certain touches that we have the cleaners do, and certain things we want to make sure that they don't do. But we also want to, cater to what that actual homeowner wants. And then as far as the cleaners, we're helping our franchise owners find professional cleaners. So we
Right.
use Career Plug. We'll put job descriptions out to different sites. We'll rank applications as they come in. And the key between, finding people that recommend on their own is we're going to do background checks, right? This franchise licensed and bonded. It's a different person coming into the house because we're doing all that work on the back end for our owners.
Gotcha. So let's go back to that semi-absentee amount of time type of thing. So obviously somebody can be an owner, not clean the houses, but oversee the teams, do the KPIs, set the vision, set the goals, run the business on a day-to-day basis. If they look at it from a semi-absentee point of view, you said about 15 hours or so per week.
Right, correct.
What would the owner's role be at that point?
So the owner's role at that point is to be working with our operations managers at Two Maids and making sure that they're clear on their marketing campaigns. We're doing that for them, but we want their input on that. We have another program called Profit Keeper where they're putting in all their cleans, all their operating costs. We want them to work with operations managers to make sure they're kind of in growth mode. And I would say some semi-absentee owners are part of the recruiting process because that's going to be the biggest part of this franchise is recruiting people and continuing to build teams. So I would say a lot of the owners of the franchise play a role in recruiting, especially in the early days, until they feel like their manager has a clear understanding of what that cleaner looks like. So I think recruiting would be a large part of it. And just managing the manager, right? If anything comes up that the manager needs help with, they've got to be able to troubleshoot and be available for that.
Okay, so this is a service-based business. Typically, service-based businesses tend to have a much lower investment level compared to regular storefront franchise. What is your investment for a two maids?
Estimated initial investment is around 150,000. You've got a franchise fee of 59,950, and then I'm putting in kind of that leased space, marketing, everything you need to kind of get up and running. So you're looking at about 150,000 all in. We offer 32,000 of in-house financing on that through Home Franchise Concepts, but pretty low initial investment when you're looking at that's getting you up and running and kind of in your first 3 months of business.
Okay, how about financial qualifications?
Yeah, I think with this one, it's not, we want, we're not really looking at net worth. We want to be able to see that they have enough capital to do it. So, if they're doing an SBA loan, they're doing 150,000 SBA loan, or, they need to be able to show, again, that kind of maybe 100 to 150,000.
Gotcha. And in your disclosure documents, we won't discuss it right now, but do you have a financial representation in your disclosure documents?
Yes, this franchise was founded by an accountant, so you can imagine.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, great. How many franchisees in the system?
I believe we are at 75 franchisees. Units, I'm not sure. They own multiple units. I don't have that off
Okay.
the top of my head, but we're at about 75 right now.
So 75 franchisees, I'm sure many of them own multiple territories because that's really the growth, right? I mean, it's when you think about growing this type of franchise, typically you grow it by routes, right? Number of cars out there because a car can only handle so many homes per day. So then bring on another team and they do another route, right? And then eventually go to another territory,
Right.
correct?
And I think what's unique in this one, I mean, at least for me in comparison to my other brands, is they aren't necessarily going to the territory next door. They're
Oh,
they're
okay.
going, I know somebody in such and such, and I can put them in that territory, and it runs that well that I have owners that have never even been to their physical locations in other states because they just have put a really solid manager in place. So if that doesn't scream semi-absentee, I don't know what does. I mean, that's a pretty
Yeah.
strong system that they can actually just find a really good manager and they can run it, pretty much anywhere. You can grow out obviously next to but you don't have to. And I think that's nice because you don't have to have that feeling of I've got to get it all now, right? You can expand into different areas and you don't have to be right where you live in order to make it work.
Gotcha. And for our clients listening here in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, Idaho, Washington, pretty good territory
Yeah.
availabilities, but
Yeah, we've got a lot of good
getting
stuff.
snatched up quick.
Yes. Yes, with this brand, it is. It does seem to be going pretty quick.
Good. Well, thank you, Shawna. I appreciate your time today. I hope everybody listening to this learned a little bit about home franchise concepts as well as two maids. These franchisors that we do work with, they do require us to pre-screen the candidates. So they want to make sure that our candidates that are being introduced to these concepts are the right people, right backgrounds, right financials, right desire, strong desire to go into business. So because the franchisors, it's really a partnership between the franchisor and the franchisee. So they want to make sure that we qualify you. And if it's a good match, then we will send you on to Shawna and Two Maids or any of their other brands. So again, thank you, Shawna. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Thanks so much.